guys. It's good to see you here again.
Let's pull in. Let's actually pull back in Lizelle. I think Lizelle got bumped off there momentarily here. I'm gonna, can you guys pin me up here? There we go. There we go. Technical difficulty. Lizelle was waiting for getting everybody on. She got bumped off here. So welcome tonight. We're super stoked to have you all here. As you know, we didn't have the webinar last week. We were traveling. We had lots of travel stuff happening, but we're back to it. And tonight we're super excited to have Chris Stricklett, who's going to be with us tonight. And why don't we just for a minute before we get started here, why don't people just tell me, where are you based? Where's everybody based out of? Where are you located? Just put in the chat down here on the right-hand side. If you click that little chat thing, you can say where you're at. And in my case, I'm in Boston. So you can see Boston show up. St. Louis, Missouri, San Antonio, Texas. I love San Antonio. Appleton, Twin Cities area, Nevada, Portland, oh, I see more people coming in. We're getting you in as quick as we can. John here, of course, is based out of China. We've got Chris in Ohio. And has Lizelle come back on? Anybody, my team? Yes, no?
Not yet.
Not yet. So she may have had an internet glitch here. Why don't we go ahead and just roll the, we're going to roll the intro there, and then we'll get on and get into the conversation tonight, which is around flint knapping. So the video.
Joining us, our CEO, John Rowland, and our General Manager, Sherman Rowland.
The guy who owned everybody's dream studio. Let's welcome Mr. Christopher Stricklett.
All right, let's pull up John and let's pull up Chris. Pin us up there.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. For sure.
So how many people have done any flint knapping so far?
Just put it in the chat.
How many flint knappers we have? Rex, Jerome, Cass and John. Gary's interested. All right. Well, we got a few flint knappers. And one of the things I know about flint knappers is that there's all kinds of styles, all kinds of ideas and methods. So, you know, I'm sure there will be lots of people that have other input if they've been knapping before. Chris is coming to us with a whole lot of experience and a pretty big scale shop. And he is both producing points himself points and tools, and he also produces the slabs and materials for supplying people who are napping points. He does the slabbing and heat treating, which, as you know, we get into the conversation, we'll talk about why that's important for Flint Knapping. But he comes to us with a lot of experience, and hopefully you all will get to learn a lot here. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks.
So why don't we start with the intro video? It's kind of an introduction to what we're going to talk about here.
Everyone, Chris Stricklett here. I know some of you have seen my face before in the Flint Knapping circuit and that. I'm a Flint Knapper. I basically Flint Knap arrowheads, and I make stone tools. These are some of the arrowheads I made here. I originally became a Flint Knapper in like 96, 97 in the winter, and learned how to Flint Knap making arrowheads. These are pieces made out of Carter Cave, piece of Rainy Butte, piece of gold sheen, opal glass. There are a lot of different methods of making arrowheads. This would be considered a flake over grind. It's already shaped. All you have to do is run a set of flakes over it and do some finish work. This is kind of a pre-flake over grind. Over here, I thought I would just talk about the different types of things that I'm producing in my rock shop. These are my machines. I have quite a few machines set up. And what I'm trying to do is produce rock for the Flint Knapping industry. And these are some of the basic products I've been putting out. And I use my Highland Park machines to do it. These are little flake spalls. They're just flakes. These would be considered slabs. They're slices of rock. This is Coastal Plains or Flint River. These are slabs of Mookaite jasper. These are called spalls. They're all coral spalls in this pile. And what it basically is one single flake, a large flake that's taken off of a parent rock, which, as an example, this is a parent rock, this is a piece of coral, and what I did was took one single smack with my copper hammer and hit it right here on that platform and ran this whole spall off. This would be considered a spall. This is a piece of coral. It'll be ready to go to the heat treat after this. I'm going to heat treat the rock to make it to increase the workability of the rock.
All right. So one of the things in our conversations, Chris, that you've mentioned to me that I think is really useful to be able to share with folks is that you described that there was 4 methods for preforming to make your point. So can you kind of walk us through those and explain the difference?
You know, Primitive Man didn't have a Highland Park slab saw, unfortunately. He had to beat them out with rocks and hard things like antlers and stones. And thing's bones. So basically he would strike a rock and run a nice flake off of it, and then using other rocks he would strike it. That's called percussion. So percussion napping is one where you strike it with another percussor and you're running flakes to shape the piece. A lot of flint nappers today, they want to have slabs. This is a slab of root beer, and a slab is just a thin thing. So one guy might make it into a pre-shape like this, which it's a 1/4 inch thick, and he's going to use pressure of a tool like this just to run multiple flakes. So you got a guy that's using these shapes, that's just a pressure guy, and he'll just remove all the slabbing that is left from our saws. Another guy is a flake over grind guy. This is a flake over grind preform. Hasn't been flaked yet, but what they do is they completely shape it into the shape of a arrowhead, and it's very, very thin, and all he's going to do is run one single set of flakes to make it into an arrowhead. He's going to just pop flakes here, pop them back the other way from the bottom, and then all he has to do is notch it. So let's see, you got percussion, you got pressure, you got flake over grinds, and I think that's most of the methods that most of the guys are using right now.
All right.
Well, one question I have here, because this is probably a question that people have in the audience, is there's certain types of material, like you live up near Roy Miller, and he's got that flint, his whole flint near Ashtabula.
Yeah, it's called Flint Ridge Chalcedony. It's real pretty. This is a thin plate of it, and this will be one that somebody will just use pressure to just pressure flakes. You hardly have to beat on it at all, maybe a few things to shape it.
And then the pressure here is a question, is like, so because we'll get into some of the other videos, but like for some you're just pushing, and because of the way the rock is formed, it's just going to pop a little thin layer off, and that's how you're getting that. I assume that's very specific for the kind of rock. And you talked earlier about silicated rocks, because I'm sure people will be like, well, what can I nap? What kind of material is nappable and not?
Just briefly, that what you're talking about is called a conchoidal fracture, and it's going to break. If you ever saw somebody that shot a window with a BB gun, you see that cone that's blown out, and it's on this exact angle. I think it's 130 or something degrees across. And so when you strike the edge of your rock with your percussor, it's running a flake on this angle, no matter what, always on this angle every time. So you want a short flake, you tip it up. You want a long flake, you lay it down. Your flake's going off on this angle every time. And then it follows ridges. So it's awesome. You can predict it.
So there's a predictability in terms of being able to nap certain material then.
It's an absolute science. Yeah, absolutely. It's a science. Yep.
So then what kind of materials are going to be stuff you'd said earlier, like highly silicated? Like what would be examples of really nappable and like not nappable?
You know, people in the United States think that there's flint in the United States, and there isn't any flint anywhere in the United States that I've ever known of. And flint is formed in chalk beds. In the United States, we have chert, a lot of cherts, and chert is formed with limestone. So they both are going to cause a spark when you strike them to metal, and they're both going to have a conchoidal fracture when you strike the edge. And then we also have, so we have jaspers. There's jasper all around the planet. one type of jasper might be considered a mookaite jasper, and what that is ocean floor. A lot of all this stuff that I'm working on here, that I'm working with, even this tab of root beer has minute little fossil sea creatures in it. They're all through there. So this was actually ocean floor. This piece of Flint Ridge right here was ocean floor. The mookaite jasper that's behind me, ocean floor. And what happened is it silicified through the movement of water, you know, and the minerals carried through the water, the silica. And same thing with fossilization. You can use fossils. You have coral fossils that was silicified. So the basically turned into a giant fossil of the coral head. Same thing with petrified wood. It's fossilized. And so it breaks in a conchoidal fracture when you strike the edge, and that's the whole science behind it, is that fracture. And the fact that that fracture follows ridges. So every time you strike a rock, you create two ridges. So then the next one, you're going to hit this one, and the next one, you're going to hit that one. And you can totally control it, you know, and it's actually very, very, very fun. Very fun.
So DZT asked a question, why can't you use agate limb cast? I actually think you can.
I use agate. We have to heat treat. Like, I'm not sure what he's asking exactly, but I have
if you look at the pink limb cast that you'll see sometimes, or the limb cast that come out of like Wyoming, they're really silicated. So most of those would be nappable. But if you look at wood that's not that highly silicated, then what happens is the grain of the wood will affect your ability to chip it, even if you heat treat it. And even with coral, the closer you get toward the middle of it, it gets pithy. So you're going to have the highest silica level on the outside edges, which you'll see in some of my other videos, I believe. And toward the middle, it's all pithy. And same thing a lot of times with a lot of the different rocks, the silica hasn't penetrated as fully to the middle, but that outside is just amazing high quality and often doesn't even need heat treating. So. All right, well, why don't we go to our next video?
So as a flint napper, my ultimate goal is to try to make an arrowhead such as this or this. These are made of Carter Cave flint. Now what has to happen is these were made out of blanks like this that I just knocked a flake or a spall off of a parent rock. And then I did different sorts of pressure. A lot of the work I did with this, I did with these tools. Now, I'm trying to show you on my totally retro Highland Park bar stool. This is my copper hammer that I use for most of my major spalling. Again, these are spalls. They're huge flakes driven off the parent rock like this. Then I have a pressure flaker, which is just basically Delron. And you can run little flakes. You can see this flake here. Somebody popped a flake here and it ran to just beyond the center line of this piece. Now they're going to go by and go pop, 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 all the way down. Then they'll come down the other side and they'll pop, 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 and all the flakes will be to the center line. That's the beginning of that blade right there. Now, I have different tools. This is another pressure flaker. This is called an Ishii stick. I shape mine as a screwdriver, but it's also used as a pressure flaker, except it's a body use tool where you tuck it underneath your armpit and you use your leg muscles to pressure flakes off. I have a braiding stone for roughing and strengthening the edges. And I have a notching tool, which is just a broom handle with a piece of copper. We use copper because it's malleable and it'll grab a hold. Indians or primitive man like to use deer antler or bone or things like that because it also will grab. And then I made some leather pads and a piece of rubber to all things to protect my hand.
So
I got
Chris,
it.
explain to me how you use that roughing stone.
Yeah, something that happens is I've got a razor sharp edge where the rock detached away from there. And so if I were to hit this edge with my billet, it's just going to shatter. It's just going to completely crunch it. So what I do is I'll take my abrader and I'll rub it really hard like that. Were you able to see that?
Yeah.
Now when I strike the edge, it's very, very strong. And I'm going to be able to easily just run a flake off of it just like that. So
Cass and John ask, how do you get the flakes to run over the
you have
center
to always
line?
make sure that the edge is strong. Yeah, well, that question about the center line, he's talking about like with a piece like this, he wants his flakes to travel at least to or past the center line on the first pass, because you don't get the second pass usually does damage. So he wants to make everyone to the center line or beyond on the first pass. And so, one of the main things that he wants to do is use an Ishii stick, which I showed there, but I'll be demonstrating. But with this, you can actually aim your flakes, and I can make that flake exit exactly where I want. I could draw a pencil line and I could aim it and I can make it exit there every time. Not most times, not every time, but most times, So yeah, that guy's you know what he's going to have to do? He's just going to have to just practice a couple more times, and it won't take hardly very long. What happens is this Ishii stick stores energy. It stores as much energy, which you can release at will. And so pretty soon you're going to be holding back rather than sending the flakes hard. You're going to be like holding back, and you just get the feel of it. So
Nice.
it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So we
actually had a question about obsidian compared to flint. Level of difficulty using obsidian compared to, like, say, one of the other cherts, like if it's a US based,
The truth is he's right that the cherts are usually quite a bit harder. I can make them a little more workable by heat treating. Not every type of rock needs heat treating. Obsidian is glass. Mm-hmm. You can chip glass or obsidian. They're nearly the same. Obsidian, you really want to abrade well so that you don't just shatter it. But obsidian just takes a lot more finesse. You have to be willing to bleed a little. You almost, you're going to get little cuts. It's glass. I talk about it that you can't wipe the flakes off yourself or you'll just slice your hands open. But I think obsidian is a great thing to learn on. But one of the flaws about learning with obsidian is I'd rather learn on something harder and then back off, because I think that learning on Flint Ridge has helped me because it's one of the harder to knap materials. And then coral would probably be even harder unless you just get that cook actually perfect or have the super highest silica level where it doesn't need heat treating, things like that.
So-
speaking about heat treating,
Rick-
I mean, there was a question that Richard asked is what is the purpose of heat treating and like, how do you do that? Like, what does it do? Because you mentioned it in your other video too, but I don't think you actually talk about the process of that.
It's kind of cool because I've made future videos of the entire heat treating process, by the way. But yeah, what happens is does a lot, seems like it does a lot the same as annealing steel or tempering steel. It does much the same thing, but I don't want to exactly say it softens it, but I think it on a molecular level, it aligns the crystals better and they carry better. One of the things is if heat treating is one thing, another thing is rock that is still coming right out of the ground and it's hydrated. So all of those little molecules are filled with water. Well, they'll carry a flake nice and solid if they got that moisture in there. So the Indians would, primitive man, he kept it buried. It was called a cache. But we heat treat it and it's going to do two things. It's going to increase the workability, but it's also almost always going to get the color to pop a little bit prettier. I have some materials like my New Mexico Jasper, the color does not change whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Flint Ridge, it increases the workability and pops the color.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Nice. All right, let's go to our next video.
So what I usually want to do is, this is a chunk of obsidian, a very, very large chunk of obsidian. Here's another one. What I ultimately want to do is clamp this large chunk of obsidian in my 24, which is over there. I've got another 24 in that corner. Now, what I'm going to do is make these giant slices. This is a giant slice. Now, this is the thickness of probably 1 5/8. Most of my folks want their slabs to be about 1 5/8 or between 1.5 and 2 inches and then 1/4 inch thick. This one's a little heavier. So what I'm trying to do is pre-cut these parent rocks into giant slabs that are as thick as that. All right, here's a giant slab ready to go. These ones I've already squared the edges of them so that, like this one, it's squared on both ends where I can easily clamp it in my saw. Now I'm going to take these chunks over and clamp them in the saw, and then I'll make 1/4 inch slices, 1/4 or 5/16 inch slices like this. Okay, and so I'm taking it from the main block to slabs to finally to thinner slabs that are able to do either the percussion for the thicker or the pressure for the thinner. Yep.
All right. You want to just move to the next video? Unless
Well, I
there's
actually
any
got
questions?
I got a question on this too, because I don't know nap. You guys have both napped. I have not, so I'm going to ask a question. So when you're slicing your material like that obsidian, are you paying attention to the positioning of the rock when it goes in? Like, are you looking at the material and saying, like, how would I slice this? I'm not just from size, but is there in the material for making it nappable, like, is there a positioning to it or not? Or is that, could I basically cut it any way? And then that flaking, and you talk about, well, I don't know what the word, the term, you're going to get that 130 degree, doesn't matter where it's positioned. You get what I'm asking?
Yes. No, there is no grain to the rocks. There's not grain to any of them. Even petrified wood doesn't have grain. But no, there's no grain to it. But I'll think about how long I want the slabs, because maybe I want to cut it long way, or maybe I want to cut it the short way. Then I have other things which like our gold sheen or Mexican rainbow. And you have to actually look at that with the sunlight or in a light and make sure you have to orient it exactly right. You have to be no more like they want you to be maybe a degree or two off of the actual rainbow, because then you're going to get several lines of pop rather than
Well,
just
that's where I was going. I was going like, for certain material, like when we bought containers of rainbow obsidian in the past. And I know like, that position and being able to capture the really good light with it was to do with the material.
Yeah. I have a video where on a black table out in the back, I demonstrated the way I have to catch the light of it. And sometimes I'll put a white dot on it. Then I know that white dot, it goes in this way, and I cut this way through the machine. And so I'll orient them on a sunny day so that I know which way they go in, clamp them in properly, or else it's just you have a rock that's got a beautiful rainbow, or you got a piece of, or cut it this way and it's a piece of black obsidian, almost worth nothing.
Yeah.
It's just, no, I don't know if you can see can you see the gold sheen of it?
Flip it, rotate it slower. Not really with this camera. You picked it up on your other camera when you filmed it.
Yeah,
it could be just a.
Yeah, it's hard on the cameras like this, but it's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's roll to the next video, John.
Yep.
All right, I got a piece of Flint River here that looks a little different than some, so I thought I would try to run a couple spalls off of here. Ooh. That's a spall. A lot of real good color underneath that edge. Rarely see reds in your Flint River like that, but most of it will be superficial. Some pretty nice little flakes. Set that back. Real nice flake. It's going to be a nice flake with lots of good color.
Yeah.
A lot of good color in the outside edging. And I might try to peel some pieces off that have some good color if I could set it up right. I love it. I love it. I just get so pumped even watching that happen. It feels so good. You
can hear that material. It clinks like a piece of steel.
And I know with that rock that the not so good stuff is in the center. And if I could set it up, which I can, and I can run a flake right from the outside, and it's going to have that beautiful red swirl. So then whatever piece that the guy is going to make an arrowhead, and it's going to have a red banding in it that's just going to make it makes it saleable. That's
Yeah.
what makes it saleable, the color. So
Yeah.
hey, if I see specific patterning in my rocks that I need to have that in my finished arrowhead, I do have to orient it very definitely exactly how you're suggesting, because I'm not going to cut away any bad patterning. If I see it, I'm going for it,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that makes sense. So one question is like for here, you're doing spalling, right?
Yeah, that's percussion there.
Percussion. So, but is that, so this gets back to technique, like the obsidian, you're taking those chunks, you're cutting them.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, when they buy saws from us, guys that are knapping, they're like, my material's expensive. I want to be more efficient and waste less material by cutting and preforming, because it's just tough to get it. And that's where we have we got lots of knapping customers running our equipment, especially the 18s. 18 super popular, 24 super popular among the knappers. Most people, do they tend to slab as opposed to spalling? Like, because here, like you're doing this and you're getting in it, but you're also could be wasting material. I'm asking kind of beginner questions because I know there's other people that don't know.
Those are real good questions. My ultimate goal is to save the rock and get as many blades or arrowheads, say, or whatever you're going to make out of it, get as many as you can. Slabbing saves me a lot of rock, and that's why I'm always saying, hey Sherman, can you get me that thin blade for my 20, and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's rocks like that piece of Flint River that I was out in the driveway that have chalk pockets. If I were to put that in my saw and hit that chalk pocket in there, doesn't hurt my saw or anything, but I just wasted 45 minutes of time, maybe if I'm trying to cut a long cut. So some of those you just want to spall it because but out there, while I was spalling, I'm like, God, this is a good one. This is a good one. I can't destroy it. So I'll remove all that cortex.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'll put it in my saw, and the rest of it, I already guaranteed it's good. Cut.
So now you might use spalling to kind of get a sense of reading the stone. And then based upon that, then you would say, okay, am I going to go further? I'm going to get it and I'm starting to slice it up.
Yeah, and those coral heads might be polypy in the middle. If I can run a flake and find out right away if it's junk in the middle soon, instead of wasting lots of oil or time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
This is
you want to go to the next video? I mean, I'm looking at questions here. Where are we at on the questions? We actually got a couple of questions here. And actually, there's a couple of questions. This one from Chris. What got you into doing this specialized rock work? Like, what got you into knapping? Like you said, 1996, 97, winter, you did it.
Yeah, I bought we would go out hunting for arrowheads, and find them. And I'm like, well, we must be able to make these now in the, late 1900s. So I bought a book, and then when I was at an Indian store, I found out that there was a guy that was going to be at Mohican Powwow, Dan Minard. So I was at that powwow, man. I went about one half around the powwow circle. They're always a circle, and I met him, and that was it. I was done. I never even saw the rest of the powwow, and he took me under his wing, and like every week we would go and meet in his shed with a whole group of us. 5 of us started at the same time. Don Roberts, Chris Miller, Chris Stricklett, Ed Moreland, and Carl Smith. So we all went to Dan Minard's almost every week, and he took us under his wing all the way until we started getting good. Then he would look at us like this over his glasses every time we'd ask a question. We were as good as him. what a great thing. What a great thing. Learning these skills, passing those skills on to me was worth everything, worth everything. But you know what happened? There's thousands of me making arrowheads. There's thousands. So my making $50 a piece for arrowheads went down to 35, 25, and those guys are better than me now. So I'm going to sell all of them rock because they're all artists and they all need rock. And I'm like, I can't lose because what are they doing? They're beating their way right through their pile of rock. And so I'm just going to keep on processing it, make sure I have the perfect cook and the perfect everything. I want to know, I want a database on all of them so that I can provide the best product for each one of them. They all have different skills. So you gotta
didn't we sell our first 18-inch saw to Flint Knapper, John?
I cannot remember. It was a guy in Forsyth. He got the very first saw that I produced.
Yeah.
My 24 that I got from you must be, I was trying to figure it out with Lizelle one day, but I must have got that thing 6 or more years ago at least. It's a long time.
Yeah.
We made the first saws in 2000, late 2009.
Yeah. And we went out to Quartzsite, Arizona. I came out to the show with you in Quartzsite and we sold like crap ton of saws. We're like, shit, there's a market for saws.
So we have a few more videos, right?
Yeah, there's like 11.
Yeah, let's go to the next video here.
I'm gonna do a preparation. This is a little piece I pressured out with my Ishii stick the other day. This is my notcher. It's basically copper. I've shaped it the shape of a screwdriver, and I like to use it for notching. But this is a piece of Coshocton. I think I'll do a side notch so I don't wipe out that lightning bolt right there. Which I did. At least not too much of it. I still use my legs to pressure my notches in a lot of times. Wanted to get up above the lightning bolt there. That's the beginning of one notch there. I like to get the second notch started before I get that one all the way in. But that's how you use your pressure to walk in notches like that.
He's laughing. He's like, ah.
You guys see that?
Yeah.
The lightning bolt.
Broke there right at the quartz.
Right at the quartz. I had the notch far enough too.
Yeah.
And so it broke. Well, what? Hey, you learn how to control yourself. You learn how to be patient and not just whip this thing and smash it into the concrete.
Yeah.
All I have to do now is make it a little narrower and change it into a dovetail, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what you just.
What's the question on like for your heat treating? Are you using a kiln? Jerome was asking that, or somebody was asking that about the heat treating.
Yeah, I have a computer program kiln. So just to speak of a quick recipe, like I might load it up and put have it run up at full speed to 210 and hold below boiling, so I can kind of do a dry out process.
Mhm.
Most of my rock has been in out of the weather, so I don't dry it that long, 4 hours. If I just brought the coral back from the river, I'm going to dry it longer and slower. But I
Mhm.
dry it out, and then I ramp up 15 degrees an hour to my target temperature. Then I'll hold. Like a lot of times you want to saturate it, or you want to make sure you get full penetration. So I might hold. I held my Flint Ridge that I just took out yesterday. I held that for 8 hours, and that's a good recipe. I took it up to 550. Coral would be ruined a lot of times at 550. So every rock needs a little different recipe. And
Mhm.
some people are even ramping it down
Right.
so they don't shock it.
Right.
Mhm.
That's good. No, that's good.
All right, I think we got time for one more video. Let's do one more video.
And make sure, Joanna, you didn't skip a video. I wasn't sure if you'd skipped
Okay,
one.
so this is a flake over grind. And I'm going to just see, I think I still need my pad.
So here you're using the Ishi stick.
Yeah.
Can you see good, Cat?
But boy, I have to hold off. I can't put too much pressure. That's glass there. Well, it's obsidian.
Basically, you try to send the flakes to center, and this is a piece of gold sheen. Can you see that? Can you see the sheen of it, you think?
Yep.
Okay, so that's so what you do is you just go ahead and run a whole pass.
That's a flake over grind.
Just like that. So I'm going to walk them all the way down this edge, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do the same going this way.
So how long will it take you to flake a point like that?
5 minutes. It's sick. 5 minutes. And really, other than a little edge work, or maybe you might decide to notch it, it would be done. It would be done.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hey, that guy asked about cooking the heat treating in his oven or something. You can heat treat in your oven as long as your target temperature is below what your oven will go to, but put it in a play sand. Put your rocks in play sand so that when it's cooling, or so that you're not ramping up too fast or too slow. Because if you put it in play sand, it can't cool too fast.
So
Or
the sand basically acts as an insulator. So it's going to slow to heat get in there, slow to heat come out. So you're not going to have the delta
shock.
between the surface being cooling and the inner being hot, and then bam.
Yep.
Well, it's
Hey.
the same thing for more polishing spheres. Like if you're dealing with optical quartz, you've got to really manage temperature on that, because the change between the inside and external temperature will cause the thing to shatter.
Yeah.
It is. Some people originally thought that the Indians, they didn't understand the conchoidal fracture, or the fact how they were doing it. So, they were trying to think that they heated the rock and dripped water on it. Well, that's a good way to put your eye out, because you drip water on a hot rock, you're going to have a problem big time.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't put certain explodable rocks in your fire pit as well.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you. Even having a fire at Flint Ridge, you can hear pieces exploding out of there. So we have our fire pit. We attempt to have our fire pit at the same spot every time, so it's safe.
Right.
Then.
Yep. Yep.
So what other questions we have?
Oh, we had a shot. So do you, this is Rex had asked, and Rex had just jumped off here, but Rex was asking, do you recommend starting with agate instead of obsidian? Agate is pretty tough for me to flake.
Yeah, I think unless agate's tough, and it's funny that I was saying that it doesn't, that these rocks don't have grain. If anything does have grain, agates do in those rings, that you get a ripple effect. I think agate would be the hardest thing to learn on. And then the heat treat really has to be perfect. And there's a huge range of so you heat it to 500, then you check them, and then that one needs 525, and then the next one needs 550, and you keep raising it till they're all good done.
Yeah. Yep. Cass and John had a question. How precisely can slabs cut slabs? What's the best saw for slabbing?
If I were going to say, one of the things is all the slabs will cut it exactly as thick as you want. Whatever you set it to, it'll cut. But the problem is, what is the angle of when the blade is just first hitting the rock? If it's a real bad back angle, that could cause a little deflection, because I'm trying to cut with the thinnest blade I can. There could be some deflection. Rocks are hard, but I think just a little deflection is the biggest trouble. You can make it cut 8 cranks, 8 cranks, 8 cranks, 8 cranks, and don't look at what it looks like it's going to be, because maybe your blade has a slight wobble and you're in the wobble that makes it look thick, and you're wondering why you have a thin slab. Go with your 8 cranks. If they're all 8 cranks, go with 8 cranks and trust yourself.
And this gets back to our previous, what we did the week before last, is around blade alignment. Like certain saws can be aligned, certain saws can't. Like you have all the Highland Park saws, in part because you can precisely align that arbor down to, a thousandth of an inch. So you can get very consistent performance in the cutting, which of course, I mean, you've made a big investment with your studio in that. So, really the question is, you want a saw that has a good vise, but also you really want to have something that can give you consistent productivity cut after cut, whether you're, a hobbyist or whether you're doing production like Chris, where he's cutting for money every single day.
Yep.
So I've got another question here, which is, this is, I think a YouTube question, trying to figure out how to cut rainbow obsidian now, and I'm struggling. And I think this gets to a little bit what you talked about earlier.
Yeah, the main thing is make sure that you look at it in the sunlight. You'll be able to see which side has that rainbow. Even uncut, dip it in water, because you'll be able to see better if it's wet. You don't want to cut. A lot of times the rainbow has lines, like tree lines or something, year lines or something, but it's whatever the lines are. But you want to be a couple degrees off those lines. But if you can't see lines with some of them, look for the reflection, and then maybe put a white dot on the center of the best angle to get the best reflection, and make sure that that's square off your blade, and you'll get it, or you'll get it. It takes a few times.
Yeah,
it takes a few times.
Gary was asking, where on the edge do you apply the pressure? I think he was talking about the pressure napping in the middle of the 1/4 inch edge, like, because this gets to that whole question of that conchoidal, what'd you call it?
It's conchoidal fracture.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, all of the times that you hit a rock, when I hit a rock, I'm not hitting with the bottom of the tool, because then the whole tool would have to pass through the rock. I'm hitting with the top edge of my tool like this. So once it touches, it's already out. My flake's gone and it goes through without passing. When you're doing a pressure flake, you're just can you see how little of the edge I popped of it? I'm
Yep.
probably just a little above center line.
Mhm.
So you're just grabbing the very edge, and that's it. And try to pop them, just try to pop them to center. Most of these went right to center, no problem.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you can see them right there. So then when you come up on the other side, you're going to have a nice meeting and get that nice shape.
Yep, you'll do the one whole side, and you do the other whole side.
Mm-hmm.
Do a couple up from the base,
Mm-hmm.
and then flip it and do the same exact thing. And then you're going to start doing edge work after that point. And
Right.
you know, the thing is, you're going to have some failures, but you can make an arrowhead the first week you ever try. You can make it, no problem. You know, especially.
So, you know, I'm going to come visit you there in Valley City, Ohio, and I'm going to learn how to do this.
This is fun, very fun.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a bunch of obsidian mirrors on my R1M. I
Mhm.
shut it off for our meeting today, but I've got obsidian mirrors, and they're halfway through the grinding of it. I'm cranked on that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Larry had two questions here. He says, did you say we don't have flint in the US? I always thought arrowheads in Georgia were flint. And I think that's a terminology. The material itself is chert that you'll find in America.
Yep.
Now, is Polish flint out of Poland,
Well,
John? Or do you know?
I know in Europe is where the real flint is, but I thought most of it came from England. Now, do they have it in Poland? They might. I'm not positive about that, but flint is formed in chalk. So wherever the chalk beds are, you'll probably find it.
Yeah. But what we have in the States here still will operate the same. Like you chip it, you'll get the sparks, the same thing, but it's technically chert as opposed to a technical flint. Although it's called
That's
flint
right.
here, like Flint Ridge.
And the stuff, all the stuff that there's Jaspers in Georgia, and then there's Flint River, that's in Albany, Georgia. Those tabs are ocean seafloor. It's silicified seafloor, so it's just chert.
Yeah.
They're fossils almost.
Yeah. The other question Larry had was, how do you prevent?
Before we go on too much, I want to make sure everybody knows that we're going to do part 2 next week on this. So we'll have more details on the chipping and flaking. And I know Chris has got some more close-up stuff for people who have questions about that. The other thing I wanted to cover is put up a link for our YouTube channel. I really want to invite people to subscribe. That helps promote the hobby, gets our training up there where more people can see it.
And also put that up so they can use their phone. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, and the more that people subscribe, the more that YouTube will show this content, because our mission has really to be growing the awareness of lapidary and lithic arts. So that, helping people understand how do they take their interest in rock, which all of us on this call, like from a little age, we're probably like, I love rocks. And then people get older and like, well, what the hell do I do with rocks? And that's part of what we're really working to do, is have people be aware that there's cool stuff that you can do that's in your backyard. That's really creative, and it's going to have longevity. So please subscribe. The other thing that we ask is, give us a 5-star review. Like, one of the things that this really helps is we're educating people, is we want the 5-star reviews. It gets us more visible. So, if you like what you're learning, do you like the webinars, tell us. And that really helps us and gives us motivation to do more, because, obviously we're here Friday night, John's Saturday early morning for his time, and we're here doing this because we're doing this to really help you really succeed in your passions and kind of introduce you to new things that really gives you more power to create and really realize your creative vision and your dreams of what you want to do. That's important for us. That's really our big mission. Any other thing we want to do before we get to be wrapping up this evening? There's links in the
actually
chat,
think,
so you can click the link.
I think if there's any other questions, let's do those. But I think we're at a good stopping point in the content.
Yeah, there's one other question Larry had is how do you prevent having a flat on the center of the slab? So this is like getting that he says, looks like it just takes off an edge. Maybe you can talk to that a little bit. Maybe you show a little bit too.
Yeah, well, sometimes, the truth is sometimes it takes more than one pass. Like if we have a wider piece, you'll run your first set of flakes to a point like this, and then you'll abrade it, and then you'll use the ridges that you created on your first pass. Each one of the ridges, I don't know, there we go. See each ridge. See, later I could hook onto that ridge and send my flake further because now it's going to follow the ridge. So you can take a second pass and you're following ridges. And so your second pass will actually travel further than your first pass.
Gotcha.
Can we show that next week, Chris?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
that'd be
And
great.
I also do have, I know you guys, I did do those couple digging videos, which I don't want to be too monotonous with it, but that might be
They actually may be cool to do. So I'll edit those with the team because we'll edit those down because I think it would be actually great for people to see like where does it come from? Because again, we want to equip all of you on here like with as much information. So if you're like, shit, I want to try this napping thing and get into it, or those of you who are nappers, God, I'm learning more stuff from Chris. We really are trying to make this help you so that you can push forward.
One of the things is that somewhere like Flint Ridge, Nethers Farm is a pay to dig site. So people can go there if you're in the Lapidary. Man, is it a gold mine. There's crystals, there's extremely patterned rock, and she charges you 50 cents a pound, which means that you get a whole 5-gallon bucket for $30. It's insane.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, it's beautiful material. In fact, that's what my videos are. I went there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
So how was this for everybody? Did you guys enjoy it?
Put in the chat. Interesting. I never thought about it. So Dan's new to this. Good. Thanks for bringing Chris on from Jerome. Awesome. Right. Great info. Thanks, HP. Looking forward to the next one. Yeah, Rex, you're still on here. That's good. We answered your question. Yeah, good. Well, yeah, this is like, we're really, we want to expand people's understanding of what's available because we have a lot of nappers that, buy equipment from us. Napping tends to be more of an East Coast, Midwest, South, not as much nappers out in like Oregon, Washington.
I don't know. There's
those
quite
areas.
a few out there in Arizona.
Well, there are a lot in Arizona, but some of those may be misplaced Midwesterners for all we know too. But I mean, napping's big out in this neck of the woods. I mean, even up here in New England, we got napping. And like Mohican State Park in Ohio, that's where a napping is. So yeah, like lots of good stuff. So we'll be here next week. It'll be just John and Chris. I'm actually not going to be on this next webinar, but the two of them will be, as well as the rest of the team. So we look forward for you being here next week. And oh yeah, Scott says, haven't done this since the Boy Scouts. Get back into it, Scott. Like Scott's a serious sphere cutter as well.
Nice.
Yep. And the Zoom link, that'll go up somewhere, Gary, in the link on the HP, however it is to get into it.
Yeah, make sure that
Gary started Lapidary with Flint Knapping. That's super cool in Alaska. Nice. Yeah, Gary, you'll come in from Alaska every time, man. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for being here tonight. And Chris, thank you very much for all the video and the hard work. Hopefully this will really help people, not just now, but also in the future, they can find those videos.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.